Hi, Misha here, and it was a halfway decent day in February and needed to come out and check on the cabin. Felt like shooting, nothing new to me, new to you, but something I enjoy. Czech was Czechoslovakian, old habits die hard. Czech Republic, Czech, CZ P10, and I went with the F model. Most people get the C model, I understand why, but I wanted the full size. So you get a 4.5-inch barrel, 19+1 grip, you know, the plates. This really is just a Czech version of a Glock, but that's not a bad thing. Nicely stippled grip, you know the deals. Really just wanted to shoot it. So why don't we do that? I always forget to do the little like, share, subscribe, check out the Patreon thing, comment when I'm in front of the camera, because really for me and my friends that do the channel, it has always been and still is about just sharing a love, appreciation, enjoyment, interest in firearms. But with modern gas and ammo prices, if you could do all or some of those things, that would really be helpful. Okay, let's dive in. P10F. First shots. The case it comes in is kind of a medium size, very square. Has fitted compartment for the oh so important lock. Cleaning tools down here, and it actually has room for a mag in the gun, and you can either lay one mag horizontal, or you can actually fit two vertical in here, so there's room for that. Oh, you have your extra back straps up here. Because they went a little artsy with the case, it's not the most space efficient I've ever seen, but it's not the worst. We'll talk more about accessories and cases later. Let's put another mag. Alright, second mag. Hold up.
What do you think?
It's a 9mm. There we go. The first mag was kind of hard to let it go on an empty, but the second one was better. Alright, so my kind of first impressions after a couple of mags. This is where I wish I was still in front of the camera. I tried to teach the cats how to do it, but yeah. It's okay. My first impressions. Not the worst, not the best. I don't own a whole lot of modern pistols, be it they hammer or striker fired. I kind of like to pick them. I do appreciate some aspects, and I am glad I grabbed the P10F version with the longer grip. The mags are 19+1, and of course fit the whole grip. It does have a lanyard point at the bottom, you know me in military, and it does have a 4.5-inch barrel, which is a good compromise. It has, let's see, 1, 2. I will say the rail only has 2 slots, but it's a long rail because it works. Squared off trigger. I do enjoy the fact that the slide is not near as squared off as, say, on a Glock. Of course, it has place for a plate, sights, you know the deal. It is very standard, but it is from CZ. Why did I want the P10F, or even the P10 in general? But of course, history, because it's me. Starting with the VZ52, standard for 7.6225 Tokarev. This was the Czechoslovakian at the time, the old communist days. This was their standard gun for about 30 years. In the 80s, they went to the VZ82 and 9x10 Makarov. And actually, that would remain their standard gun into the 21st century. It was gradually phased out from the early 21st century up until, really not even a decade ago. Some of these were still very much in service in 2015, 2016. And I bet some reserves and police and other things had them even getting into 2019, 2020. Now the CZ75, this is mine here. This is kind of just the basic militarized version. When Czechoslovakian CZ designed this in the 70s, it really was for commercial export. But because of patent rights and everything under communism, that's why so many countries copied it. It wasn't really designed for the Czech military directly. However, as time would go by, some would be acquired by Czechoslovakian Special Forces, later Czech Republic Special Forces, police. Relatively small numbers, but still, when a 9x18 Makarov wouldn't do, a 9x19 NATO Parabellum Luger would. And this is the handgun that really put CZ on the map. Whichever version you go for. Some of these are very nice. And in a lot of ways, the P10 is the worthy successor to the 75. If you think about it, the 75 is not a revolutionary gun. It wasn't in the 70s. Double single action hammer, double stack magazine, a modified Browning system, but it was well made, dependable, well priced. It hit all the right notes of being a good gun. And it seems like the P10, for the most part, maybe a couple early teething issues notwithstanding, is the same. It is very much Glock inspired striker system. It has swappable mag releases. As I said in the XD video, I really prefer true ambidextrous mag release. It does have, of course, an ambi slide release, so there's that at least. And of course, like all modern guns, it has the spot for a sight. I even like that it has the sticker on the top showing that it is a military gun. When CZ designed these, they started working on them sometime around 2013, 2014, and they first released them in 2017. They were meant for export, commercial sales, civilian, military, police, but they were designed for the Czech armed forces. Because, yeah, they'd been using some old Makarovs, kind of a hodgepodge of CZ75s, Glocks, other things. And they wanted to standardize on something made homegrown. Can't blame them. And they have a few versions. And I picked the P10F, the full size. Although you do see a lot of the P10Cs, compacts. Those are also used by the Czech military. There's also, of course, the P10S and P10M. And I've noticed on the Czech website they call the militarized version the P10 NATO. But yeah, that's why I picked it. Why did I wait several years to get one? Cost. I found a really... I had been asking friends that had gun shops and everything. I don't typically sell a lot of modern handguns in my own store. I just don't. It's not my niche. But every time I go to a friend's store, hey, you got a nice used P10 in, and I found a couple of C's, but I really wanted an F. Finally, last year, I stumbled across actually factory new, kind of an overstock P10F, and thought, okay, now is the right time. And the truth is, it was sub $400 brand new, so that was pretty spiffy. All right, let's try the P10 again. Held open. Alright, I put a few mags through it now. I do like the long grip, and the checkering is certainly aggressive. Not so much so that it hurts, but you feel it in your hands. Loading up the mag, I had no trouble hand loading up until really the second to last, even the last round, so that's not bad for new. Trigger is fine. It's fine. I can't say it's my favorite handgun. I think I still like the Walther a little more. But I do like the grip angle and overall kind of aesthetic better than a modern day Glock. But the thing about a handgun, it's very personal preference. So with that said, let's just hand this off to J-Ro and get his take. Alright, now J-Ro's turn with the CZ.
Yeah, man, I like it. You were talking about the aggressive checkering, and one of the things that's immediately noticeable about it is it's not stippled in, it's protrusive checkering.
Mm-hmm.
And so you really feel all that extra texture. I would say that, like, especially with gloves, this is exactly the kind of texturing that I would want, because, like, even through a relatively thick shooting glove, you'd still have a real good grip on that and feel it. I also completely agree with you about the ergonomics of the grip itself. I don't have especially big hands, and so anything that's got like a ridiculous palm swell on it or is super meaty and thick like that, I have a hard time really getting a good firing grip on it comfortably. But this felt great. The only thing that kind of stuck out at me is from where my thumb likes to rest in my shooting position, I'm kind of sitting there on the takedown. And it was, I mean, you would just get used to that, but it's a little distracting. I mean, it's not an especially big problem. It's just something that jumped out at me.
Yeah, I understand.
And one thing we were both talking about is the slide stop is extra stiff.
Yeah.
I think some of that would break in with use, and some of that's that I'm dropping it empty.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is.
But I think what you've got is a spring tension that's really, really high. And so when it's sitting locked like that, you've got a lot of tension pushing against that.
Alright, and kind of back to the table. Again, we had no problems with this all day. No jams. Now, we were firing Sig 124 grain, more or less NATO spec ammo. But even with that, which is, I wouldn't call it hot ammo, but not 115 kind of lighter pud loads, I did like the recoil. It didn't feel overly snappy and everything. That's one reason I did kind of want the longer grip. As J-Ro pointed out, he doesn't have large hands. I certainly don't. But this grip, while it is long, is not especially wide, especially if you don't add the extra back straps. And it really fits well. The checkering isn't overly aggressive. It is large, but it's not like a cat's tongue, like some of the early rough texture Glocks. It's a little bigger than that, which means it'll be more durable. Of course, you could always sand it down, but it didn't get me. And if you had any kind of shooting gloves on, it'd be perfect. I see what J-Ro was talking about with the takedown, but actually I don't mind it because it's slightly dished in, it's slightly recessed, and it too has texturing, which actually matches up with the texturing here, so it kind of flows. Like you said, it's maybe slightly distracting, but not bad. Yeah. I like the mags, that they're actually metal body. Personal preference, you might like polymer mags, that's cool. I still prefer metal body mags. I like that they have sand cuts in the sides, witness holes, and considering they're 19 shot, they have to obviously have a pretty stiff spring, but I could load them up to 16, 17 by hand, no trouble. So with any kind of loading tool, I do wish it came with one, but oh well. It charges very easily. Front too. I think having kind of the dished in slide helps there a bit. The sides are actually metal. You'd have to ask J-Ro how they are. He didn't have trouble with it. The mag release, like I said, I would prefer if it were true ambi, but at least it is the larger style. Very much reminds me of a Gen 4, 5 Glock. And yeah, trigger's fine. No manual safety. As far as I know, the military versions don't have manual safety either. The frame is fiberglass reinforced polymer, according to the CZ website. The slide and barrel are high grade. They don't exactly go into super detail on the Czech website about their construction. I'm sure it's a hammer forged barrel. Knowing all the effort they put into making things like the Evo 3, I do trust CZ to make a piece of steel that's going to really last. And they say it's pretty much as impervious to corrosion, moisture, rust as they can make it, and that it shouldn't wear. So I wouldn't worry about shooting one of these out personally. And even though it's a new gun, I don't know, like I said, I just trust CZ to make something quality. They've been doing it for a minute. But, you know, as we've said throughout the video and kind of compared on and off, firearms are a personal thing. So with that, how does it stack up to modern guns?
But no, overall, I like the trigger. A lot of times I find that, you know, trigger safety systems that are striker fired tend to be a little spongy, and this one felt great.
Yeah, I would agree it feels better than the majority, including just a factory Glock. Not your Target Glock or your match grade, but just a standard, bog standard, say 17, whatever.
Yeah, it didn't at all have that staple gun feel of like squeeze ka-chunk, squeeze ka-chunk. No, overall I really like it.
And let's end the video by comparing quickly as I can, the gun with other polymer frame strikers that I happen to own and have fired. As I said, I don't own too many, and as I said, handguns do kind of get very subjective. What fits my hand may not fit yours and vice versa. So very much personal opinion coming away, but hey, we'll do a little comparing, see where we're at. How does the CZ P10F stack up with against? And if we're going to start, we have to start here. 19X. The reason I own the Glock 19X is my modern one. I had a full-size 17, but actually I traded it off to Jay a few years ago. This is as close to a militarized one as we really have that's easy to find. I'm not a big Glock collector. Starting off with the case accessories, I'll be honest, I really don't like the Glock case. When they introduced it with the, what was it, late Gen 2, Gen 3, this case was fine, but they've kept the same thing, and they keep putting more and more accessories in here, and it's just getting crammed full. New case Glock. And the latches aren't the best. It's not the worst case, but I just feel like they're trying to put too much in too little of a box. Like I said, the CZ box, yeah, it could be laid out a little more efficiently, but other than that, I do like it better. It has more sturdier latches. Now, I will say, CZ comes with 2 mags. Glock usually ships their guns with 3. This 19X has a couple of extended, couple of standards, and it does give you a mag loader, so gotta give a little point there. And they both use the back strap system, the Glock on the little tree, CZ in a little bag. I'd go with the small anyway. What about the guns themselves? Glocks are, of course, proven. Hard to say otherwise. But I think CZ has proven themselves over the years as various guns too. So I wouldn't expect much less in terms of reliability or durability out of either one. I think that's fine. And the mag release is very similar. And the slide stop is not too far off either. The Glock has 1 rail slot, CZ has 2, but the CZ is nigh on an inch longer. The barrel, you've got 4.5, but the slide's a little bit longer in the back because of the sloping with the CZ. As far as bore axis, CZ feels maybe slightly higher, hard to say, doesn't matter. Grip, CZ's slightly longer, 1/2 inch, 1/3 of an inch. Of course, with the flush mag in the 19X, you have 17 rounds versus 19, so 2 extra rounds for a little extra length, but then again it comes with the extended mag. What about the trigger though? Both have the same safety tit split trigger. Jero often thinks of this as the staple gun trigger. It's not as bad on the 19X as some earlier ones, but it's not a match trigger. As for the CZ, it's a better trigger out of the box, but of course you can always upgrade your Glock. Then again, if you upgrade it too much, you might lose reliability. Personally, I do like the 19X. It's my favorite Glock shooter. But I think I do slightly, and I do mean slightly, prefer the P10F when it comes to shooting and how it fits me personally. I think charging it is just slightly easier for me with this style of slide and serrations. I do like the longer grip and the slightly more vertical grip. Even though this is a 19X, it still has kind of a palm swell on the back. Large full-size Glocks, well, they fit my hand okay, but not perfect. This is a little less here. So yeah, personally, I would pick the CZ over the Glock, but I know a lot of people would disagree. The next one's a bit ironic. Let's try this XD. Well, it's a 9mm. The Springfield XD, when we published this video a couple weeks ago, people actually mentioned other guns like CZ, and these two we were out shooting at the same time. So I was kind of on the same fence. As far as cases, yeah, this is the duty, the service, the essentials. So you just get one mag and a zippy case with a little pocket. So obviously the CZ beats it there. Surprisingly, the price isn't a huge difference, but the CZ is more expensive. So it's up to you on that. What about the guns themselves? These are both military service style guns. Of course, the original XD predates the CZ by a good decade and a half. So we got to give a little room there. It has a slightly shorter barrel at 4 inches, slightly shorter grip, less capacity, 16 in the mag versus 19. But I will say the XD mag was easy to load, even up to the top. And also, it has the mag release that I enjoy. True ambidextrous push button from either side style. The first gun I ever fired that had this style, not saying it's the first that ever made it, far from it, but the first I ever fired was a Walther P88. Whereas on this, you have to reverse it. Of course, the serrations, the checkering, everything is far less on the XD, especially in the front. It's not really comparing apples to apples, though, because this is the Essentials version. It does have a cool crest, though, and they're both imports. I will say, when it comes to shooting, considering that the XD is somewhat smaller and has less texture on the grip to really get a good grip, I feel like it handles recoil very well. And I think part of that's the nested recoil spring system. On the other hand, the slide is very blocky. I definitely like the slide and the serrations and retracting it on the CZ more. And you don't have an ambidextrous, at least on this version, slide release either. What about the trigger? CZ we already talked about, but just so I have it fresh in my finger. And of course you have the grip safety. I'm gonna grip that again. The XD trigger is not bad, but as Jerry pointed out, the first time you really shoot one, it does take a little getting used to. It has a very long reset, which isn't, again, a bad thing. It's a smooth trigger, it's not heavy, but it does have a long reset. But I would still give it to the CZ trigger. So I actually like the recoil impulse slightly more on the XD, but I like the trigger more on the CZ. So yeah, the CZ is a higher quality gun. I do trust that the metal and frame will wear in quite well. I have had good experience with XDs, but people, especially in the comments in that video, claimed reliability, durability issues. I don't know. This has served in the Croatian Armed Forces for years, so take it as you will. But while I think this gun will hold up, I pretty much know as well as I can know anything this one will. So overall, CZ is the winner, but I really do like the mag catch system that the XD sports. Who's next? M17? As controversial as it was when the US went to the Sig M17, the P320, I've always had good luck out of mine. And I like its case. Now, I've got an extra mag in this one, but as you can see, there's plenty of room. This actually did come with 3. 1 extended, 2 standard, I believe, or I could be mixing that up, but either way, I've got 4 in here. It's a nice, solid filling case. I like the hinged latches. This is probably my favorite case so far. Accessories, well, you don't get a whole lot here. Just the mags. Then again, not a whole lot of what you don't need to. So, up to you. No loading tool with mine. And does this have a cleaning rod? I don't believe it did. Remember, it's under the foam. It's been a while since I've had the case out. This usually sits in a different case in the gun room. Don't feel any. So yeah, not as many accessories as the Glock, but I love the roomy case and I love the feel of it. It's a more usable case, and I do like when a gun comes with 3 mags. That's just nice. The one problem we had with the XD Duty was we couldn't load up several mags and shoot. We had to shoot, load, shoot, load. It just slows things down. That's actually why, even though we had this packed that day, we didn't get to shoot it just because we were running out of daylight, plus J-Ro had to get back. But yeah, accessories, case, best so far. What about the gun though? The 320, the M17, is actually slightly longer thanks to this beaver tail than the P10F. Although the P10F still has a ever so slightly longer grip. That's of course with the standard mag 18 shot and this, not the extended. The Sig is kind of heavy on the top part. Sigs are kind of known for high bore axes, and kind of continues here. You do get 3 rail slots instead of 2. I do like the larger mag release on the CZ versus the slightly smaller one on the Sig. But again, I would prefer the MB1, not the reversible. This has the split trigger, this has a solid. Of course, they both have slide releases on each side. One unique thing to the M17 style is the manual safety, something you don't see a whole lot. I don't know. I could understand why some would want it. I could understand why some wouldn't. I'm kind of neutral on it, to be honest. Although I do think having it's kind of unique. It is kind of nice to know safe, and there you go. So, and it's not too obtrusive. The grip has much finer checkering here, but it is nice and vertical, and I do like the thumb cuts on the Sig, whereas the CZ just is ever so dished in. Gonna have to say that the Sig grip fits my hand slightly better than the CZ. But what about their triggers? Boom. Boom. Boy, that just, because this doesn't have the split trigger, it's different. I think I would need to shoot them side by side, because this has a much shorter pull, but it is a little bit spongier. I'm going to do that one more time. Whew. In some ways, I like one. I'm going to give it a draw on the trigger. Keep in mind, I'm not doing match grade, I'm doing military grade. This is a little smoother, a little lighter, but a longer pull. This is a little bit springier, spongier, but it's such a short little pull. And I do kind of like not having the safety on the trigger. And so we have this one. Both have kind of the angled slide. The Sig is a little top heavy. Most of your weight is up at the top, but that's of course with an unloaded mag. This is a little more evenly balanced, although with both empty, yeah, they're going to be top heavy. I'm going to say it's a draw. I've actually as much as I have questions about the U.S. trials to pick the M17, I've enjoyed shooting my 320, and it's been very reliable. So I have to say my personal experience with it's been positive. I kind of wish we'd had time to shoot it that day. Yeah, gives us something for next time. But yeah, I'm going to say I couldn't pick a favorite right now. If you absolutely made me, I would go with the Sig only because I've been shooting this gun about 5-6 years. And this gun is new to me. But, you know, time. With that, we have one more. And actually what was, up until this, my most recent handgun pickup. Alright, I'm going to get back to the PDP. Of course, the Walther. This certainly comes with the largest case, even larger than the SIGs, but whereas the SIGs is kind of an open floor plan with foam, this has cutouts for everything. I do like that they give enough space on the gun. You can put an extended mag in it and you have room for the barrel. I did swap out the 4.5 inch for a 5 inch threaded barrel. It does have room for your sight, so that's all nice. We have room for 2 spare mags, one with the mag loader, which it does come with. We've got a couple of extra pocket spots here for things, including the grip straps. I will say I like the grip strap system, and it's that Walther uses. They actually pioneered this with the P99 and everyone copied them, but the whole back comes off and is pinned in, whereas with the Glock and the CZ, you're actually just kind of double-deckering the back of the gun. It works, but I find the Walther system a little nicer. Plus, the Walther back straps are a semi-flexible, kind of rubbery material, which kind of acts a little bit as a recoil buffer, whereas the CZ and Glock have, just plastic. But this came with 3 mags. Not all of them do. It does have a mag loader. As far as the case, if you're just using it for the PDP, it's great. If you want to use it more as a universal case, then I'd say the SIG case is better. On the other hand, the Walther comes with more and varied accessories. But what about gun to gun? Not counting the extended barrel here, they both have the same length slide, at least roughly so. And their grips are very similar length too, with the Walther just being slightly shorter. Which is actually kind of impressive because it holds 18 versus 19 rounds. So I kind of like the grip more. This one feels about just right on the length department. Everyone who picks this up says it's a little long. Again, I don't hate it. I'd rather have it a little long than a little short, you know what I mean? But still. The slide stop, I've always liked this style since Walther first started using it on the P99, the late P99s that carried over to the Poopy Q. It sticks out a little bit, but it's very flush, and I've always had an easy time lowering, even on empty. I also like the kind of larger takedown of the gun that started with the P9. This is evolution of the P99. You know that. We've done videos. The checkering. On the back, the CZ is slightly more aggressive. On the sides, the Walther is. The Walther also has mild grooves, whereas the CZ really doesn't. Mag release, Walther's is a round button, taller but shorter. CZ's, again, I wish Walther would go back to the P99 and early PPQ style, paddle style. Yeah, I mean, feature-wise, they're pretty much all the same, although I will say Walther gives you a lot of rail slots for the same size gun. So, a little bit of an edge there. But of course, trigger time. That was the CZ. Would it surprise you to learn the PDP has a better trigger? It's not, just 3 times better, but it's noticeably better. Although it does have that spong noise, although you don't notice it when you're shooting. But something else I noticed retracting the slides, the recoil on this is heavier, but That's because it came with an extra recoil spring for the threaded barrel meant to be used with the suppressor. So it's kind of here and there. But yeah, the PDP, based off the PPQ, based off the P99, has a better feeling trigger out of the box. No shocker there. And no shocker that I would prefer this gun. It's still really my favorite shooting. I picked it right up, really grew into it. I like that it has the cutout for your thumb up here. I like the grooves, the way they did it. This fits my hand very well, but I can understand if your hand is different why it would not fit you. If it doesn't fit, it would be a very uncomfortable grip. But yeah, the funny thing is, this is not a military gun as such. Police have used it, but I don't believe any military has adopted it, whereas the CZ, the Sig, even the Glock have been military. So I have to, be honest about that. Of the ones we've looked at, it's the one that really isn't a major military gun. That said, Walther's been making handguns for well over 100 years and had several of their other designs adopted. I think they know what they're doing. It's a good gun. So, with all due respect to the CZ, yeah, I would pick the PDP over it right now. But both are still quite new to me, and I really want more trigger time with each one. So, just impromptu, here's my ranking of these guns. I hate to put the little old XD at the last spot because it has my favorite mag catch, and I do really respect what HS Products has done in Croatia, making guns for their own country. But this is the Essentials version, so no accessories. It's the only one out of these that people have questioned its reliability, durability, even if I've had good experience. And the trigger, there's a little bit of a growing pains there to learn how to do it. And this particular version is an ambi, no back straps. It's not a bad gun. I really do like it for the money. But someone's going to be last. That's where it is. I put the Glock next. It's probably the most proven over the years, but Glock has avoided a lot of military contracts. They've got some, they've avoided some. And, when we do videos about non-Glock striker polymer guns, some people, the Glocks are better. Can you imagine how boring it would be if this channel was only Glocks or variety is the spice of life? And as much as I respect Glock, they don't super interest me. I'm sorry. The ones that do tend to be your Generation 1s and some Gen 2s. And some kind of unique configurations like the 19X. I really like it. That's why I've kept it. I got this for my birthday 4 or 5 years ago. But it's a Glock. And it doesn't have a particularly great trigger. And it is what it is. Like I said, these are pretty much neck and neck for me. I really need more trigger time with the CZ. The Sig is a really nice gun, except it just has a few little quirks. But it is a really nice gun. But yeah, no surprise that Misha's going to pick a Walther. Now, if it had trouble, I would not. But I'm going to be honest. All 5 of these guns, to me, have been 100% reliable. With all kinds of ammo. Steel-cased Wolf, brass-cased Sig, PPU, even some aluminum-cased crap we got years ago. 115 grain, 124 grain. I put 147 grain through this one. They all work. And that kind of comes back to the personal preference, personal taste, or what you find a good deal on. Like I said earlier in the video, I held off getting a P10 until I found a good deal. Actually, all of these I got because I found a good deal. This one is already cheap as it is. Like I said, I found this one on a deep discount. This one was also a bulk discount. This one was actually a local pickup at a store that was clearing them out. And these I picked up on a clear out last year. They were trying to get down their Walther stock and were selling below cost. So since I'm paying for everything on this channel, this isn't a channel that's sponsored, has T&Es, all that. I do look for good prices. On the other hand, I usually keep the guns, or sometimes people like Fox or Jay will want me to trade out, and I will. But just sharing my personal opinions, personal taste, trying to say something interesting because I've always wanted to feature the P10 because it is the Czech military gun now. But just trying to find an angle to talk about it. But what do you think? Do you own any of these? How's your experience been? Any ammo not work? Have any jams? Any problems? Have to send one back? Like I said, I know early on the 210, the P10s had a couple of issues. And again, early on there were some issues with the 320s, and I even heard a couple of people early on with the PDPs have issues. And believe it or not, sometimes even Glocks have to get sent back to the factory. And of course XD. But yeah, just wanted to do that. Out to the range with it. We'll do more, but it's always fun to get out on a nice sunny day with friends and shoot some guns. This is Misha, and if you could, as always, like, share, subscribe, check us out on Patreon. Catch you very soon next time.